This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Radar, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with Sepideh Moafi about the L Word Generation Q. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you. It's tonight now here. How are
Well,
you?
I'm good. Thank you for taking some time to speak with me.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
So, what was did you know about the original show when it was on, and how did you feel about it?
Oh yeah. I was a big fan. Actually, I was in undergrad, I believe, when the show aired, and I was at San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and I remember one of my classmates, who was also a vocal performance major, turned me on to the show. And at that time in my life, I don't think I'd ever, maybe besides Friends, watched the entire series through. So I'd seen episodes here and there, and we'd watch together. And then it wasn't until after I graduated that I kind of binged the whole series. And then when I came into, like, when I was being considered for the part of Gigi, I rewatched the whole series. So I've technically seen the whole series through a couple times, and like one extra, like a few episodes here and there.
Well, watching it just a couple years ago, how does it hold up?
It's interesting because I feel like with any great show, you feel this, like, it feels like time has definitely passed, but you can still feel the sort of raw grit and impact that it has. Like, it is so, to this day, it's so radical from anything that we see on television. The first iteration of the show, like, you still get that feeling when you're watching it.
Yeah. So, what attracted you to the role of Gigi?
Honestly, one of the main things, I can't lie, is the fact that I knew that this is, as a storyteller, as an actor, as an artist, I'm always drawn to projects, stories, roles that I feel are not all already there. Like, if there's something obviously that I can bring to the role, that draws me in, but the main thing for me is what is lacking in representation, not just with characters and people, but also stories. And I feel like Gigi kind of hit that all around. There wasn't a character like this on screen, and I did feel very connected to her. It felt easy to step into. Not easy, but it felt pretty, like, there were no obstacles. There was nothing like in my way. So.
Well, we've definitely seen Gigi become sort of more central to the storyline because at first I couldn't really understand why she was, like a more regular presence than Nat, given the relationship to Alice. But we've seen her evolve, I think, much beyond what
Yeah.
her original presence on the show was.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, what is it like? It would have been like working with Leisha Haley and Stephanie Allen.
I love them so much. Who doesn't love them? They're hilarious. They're supremely talented. They're just genuine good people. But the thing that I loved most about working with them in particular was that they are they are so attentive. They pay attention to detail. They are meticulous. They are open. They're vulnerable. We would talk about every scene together. And even before we started filming, I remember we went into Leisha's trailer, and Stephanie and I weren't working that day, but I think it was like Leisha's first day of work. And we just sat and talked, like, how did our characters get together? Who are our characters? Who are we? Who are we together? And so there was just an openness and a curiosity, and a very easy work relationship, which then translated into, at that point and even more now, a friendship.
That's really nice. And I think it was very short lived, but I did enjoy the brief relationship she had with Bet, which seemed sort of doomed from the start.
That's right. It did seem kind of doomed from the start. When I read that in the script at first, I was like, all right, here we go. Two very strong personalities together, those characters, so it's good. It makes for really juicy drama, as we've seen.
Well, it's been interesting to see her now end up with Danny, although the season premiere sort of indicates that maybe things aren't going to work out as smoothly as certainly as Danny hopes.
Yeah, I can't say anything to that. Nice try, though.
Well, let's talk about their relationship in general, what it's been like to build to this point.
What is it like could you repeat that one more
What
time?
has it been like to build to this point with the two of them?
I mean, again, just as a person, I love Ari. I love working with her. She's like uh, there's like a deep connection there, just as human beings. And so again, that makes it so easy to work with her and to work together. Um, the storyline, and the connection that you see throughout the season, something that I love to do just personally, and I don't try to impose these moments, but I think so much in life is about what is not said. And, in the script, it's not always what you see on screen is not always in the scripts. You know what I mean? So there were a lot of those kinds of moments with Danny and Gigi that I think really made the relationship ring. A lot of those silent moments together, or those moments where we're just kind of observing each other, or our physical, our body language together. So seeing how that, and again, because we're so comfortable with each other, we're so close, just as people. It was so easy to find those moments on screen together, because it felt safe and just easy.
It's also nice to hear Farsi spoken and see these,
Yeah,
three-dimensional Iranian American characters, not just one of
totally.
them. And I think that's sort of still somehow unfortunately rare in today's TV landscape.
Unfortunately, yeah, and especially seeing Iranian, or really any person from the Swana region, the Southwest Asia, North African region, who is openly queer. And it's still stigmatized. Like in Iran, as we've seen over the past 8 weeks, there's been this massive uprising where people have stormed the streets, and they're not getting off the streets. They are demanding their freedom. And part of that is, just yesterday, I saw a picture of a woman, holding up a rainbow flag that said "Woman, Life, Freedom" on it. And that might seem like that's something we see every day here. I have a rainbow flag in my house. We see them all over, Brooklyn and LA, and just all over the place. But in Iran, there are two, LGBTQIA plus activists on death row at the moment. This is an executable, thing for them, that if you are, not even if you're openly gay, but if you are gay and they find out, you will be tried in the court of Islamic, law, and that is an executable offense. So seeing that kind of bravery, I think it just makes it even more important to echo their bravery and keep this representation alive in the media, in television shows, in films, in news media, everywhere.
Of course, and this show is definitely one I think that feels very authentic, that has just such a range of people with different identities who are still going through their own changes and figuring out what it is, who it is they are, which is nice.
Yes.
And when I spoke with Rosanne, she mentioned that this season she feels like she really got to sort of interact with everybody. Do you feel that way? Or
Yeah.
are there still people that you feel like you just haven't had screen time with yet?
It does feel like this season was definitely, there was a lot more mixing and mingling between the characters, and I think that was something that Marja made a point of, because, and I don't mean to like speak for her or misquote her or anything, but I remember she was saying that just personally she loved seeing the characters interact, and loved seeing characters that you wouldn't expect to be together interact. So I think there's definitely a lot more of that this season.
That's great. And in the interim, waiting between season 2 and 3, I saw you in Blackbird, which is a very,
Oh,
very
yes.
different role.
Very different. Another world. Yes, completely.
What attracted you to that project, and how different was that, in the filming experience from this?
I mean, I felt like, just thinking about these experiences of L Word, of Blackbird, they feel like different lifetimes, really. They could not be more diametrically opposed. They're just both the characters, the sort of the genre, the world, the tone, everything about it is so different. And something that really, appealed to me about Lauren, besides the writing, I mean, man, Dennis Lehane, he can write. And that's no surprise to anybody, but, it is just such an honor, a privilege to be able to put those words in my mouth and in my body, and let them work on me, and discover this character, discover who she is through the script, through the world, that is based on, a true story. Something that I loved about Lauren was she is just her tenacity, her focus, her drive. Again, something that might not seem too radical in this day and age, because we are a lot more aware of sort of gender imbalances and inequalities. But being a woman in the FBI in the 90s, I mean, that feels like, even though it's what, 20 years ago or something, 25 years ago, it feels like it's like 100 years ago, the way, you know, the difference. And it's still terrible now, you know, it's still not like there's gender equality in any workforce, really. But learning more, reading, kind of digging into interviews, podcasts, documentaries, testimonials from agents, retired agents. Yeah, it's very upsetting, and it makes me appreciate a character like Lauren even more because of who she is in the world she exists in.
Yeah. I also know that shortly after season 1, I think I saw you in person at the Sundance premiere of The Killing of Two
Yes.
Lovers.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which was a really
also a very different world and
right, different kind of relationship thing, and also a very misleading title, I think, in
yes.
a good way. And I had the chance to talk to Clayne and Robert when the film was released. So
yeah.
I wish that film, I mean, it was never going to be a big film. It's destined to be a tiny little film only a few people discover. But what was the experience of working on that project like?
That project was, you know, if we're talking about Blackbird and Elwood being 2 lifetimes ago, that feels like 10 lifetimes ago. But it was one of the most sacred, special artistic experiences I've ever had. They cast me basically from the casting director suggested me and sent them another audition tape that I'd done for an unrelated role. And Clayne said that he saw me pick up a wine glass before I said anything in the audition and sip it, and that he knew that it was me. So it was a big gamble, and it was a big, I mean, I was honored and happy, and I was confident that I could fill the shoes, but it's still a little intimidating when you haven't read anything and you're walking into a role or a rehearsal space. But I couldn't have felt more welcomed and more embraced. We had like 2 days of rehearsal before where we just talked. We didn't even really talk about the script that much, but we just talked as people. We talked about the characters. And then, I mean, it was one of the easiest shoots too. We did everything in like 1 or 2 takes. And yeah, again, the script was so good, and it was so well written, and it felt like such a communal experience. There was such a strong community, and it was a labor of love. And we were all kind of in Kanosh, Utah, population of 230 people, together for these like 3 weeks that we filmed, or around a month that we filmed. It was a very special experience, and I still, like, as I'm talking about it, it feels like it was just yesterday. So I'm glad that you asked that question.
Of course. I also noticed something interesting on your IMDb page, which is, I don't know what the timeline is for Class of 09, but it seems really intriguing. Is that something that we should look forward to soon? And can you preview anything about that?
Yes, it's I think I can say this, but we should expect for it to come out in the new year. Or around, I think, spring. And that's a fascinating, I mean, talk about a supremely talented cast. Yeah, Jake McDorman, Brian Tyree Henry, Kate Mara, Brooke Smith, John Briones. You know, that was another family. We were in Atlanta together for like 6 or 7 months, and we really bonded, and I just felt very lucky. It's a true ensemble piece, and we're still on a text thread together. We love each other so much, and I haven't seen much of what we've done, but everything that I have seen, you again see this connection between the cast, and again, it's a labor of love. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's going to be a minute, but I think it'll be worth it.
Well, it sounds great. I hope that anyone watching will check out new episodes of The L Word Generation Q, Fridays on demand and Sundays on Showtime. Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is mine. Thank you.